Hey everyone, Larry Bailey here with another weekly meeting. It's 4 p.m. on Tuesday, so we get together as a community. Today is all about enhanced conditions, enhanced conditions, and by the end of this call, you'll have 3 valuable reasons why you need to get them in your Encompass now. And I'm challenging you to tell me why I'm wrong. That's the game. The game of today is tell me why I'm wrong. So a couple of formalities out of the way. It's community call. That means you're here to act as a community. It means I'm going to be talking because nobody else ever likes to come up on stage. But if you want to be a rule breaker of the community unofficial rules for everybody who shows up to these calls, and you're going to actually ask a question about your company or your situation, feel free. I'll invite you as up on the stage, and that just means we can hear your audio. If you want to put your video on too, that would be great, but no pressure. If you want to just use a chat, just use a chat. We'll figure it out. As I said earlier, 4 o'clock Eastern, we meet. We're going to let some participants roll in. Jeremy, hello. Luba, hola. Chris, high five. 10 back to you. Hey, everybody give Beth Bastian a congratulations for earning her certificate as being a Master Encompass Administrator. She passed her test. So kudos to Beth Bastian for doing that. Everybody give her kudos. If you want to take the test, I put it out on LinkedIn, or I even put it here on the community. If you want to take the Mastering Encompass as an admin test, let me know. Send me a direct message, send me an email, whatever you want to do. It is completely no cost to you. It's really just to establish what it is that you know. It's 90 questions. You have 2 hours. We also had Ricky Merchant. I don't know if Ricky's on the call today, but Ricky Merchant, who owns My Lending Pal, he also passed the test. He took the test and passed it. It's nobody's perfect on the exam. And that's exactly what I want. I want you to have to stretch. I want you to have to read. I want you to have to think. I want you to have to connect the dots. It's what I do. Luba, if you could find the Admiral Akbar meme where it's a trap, you should put that up. But no, it's not a trap. It's not a trap. It's just a way for me to say, here's a test. And because if we don't test ourselves, do we really know? We don't. So every day, I guarantee you're in your Encompass doing your job, right? Every day you're meeting with your business, finding out what they need or what's broken. And the reality is, what if you actually had time to go back to them to say, hey, gang, I think we should be doing things a different way. That's kind of what my whole agenda here is. That's the trap, Lube. I'm trying to get you to think differently. Sorry. Okay. Hey, does anybody want to talk about enhanced conditions? Is that on anybody's mind? Show of hands in the chat. Who actually, besides Beth, who's actually using enhanced conditions in their daily Encompass? Is anybody actually doing that live today? Candace is doing it. I forgot about that, Candace. You actually said that before, so thank you. Bethany says they're working on setting up now. So for those that are wondering, like, what do you have to do to set things up? Bethany, tell me if you did this. Candace, you tell me if you did it this way too. You have to first export all of your conditions out into an Excel sheet, which I think I've said this before. If you need the button code, send me a direct message. I'll give you the button code to put on a custom input form. It'll just export all your conditions out. And that's step 1. You got to export them out, right? Step 2, you have to give it to your business. You're an Encompass admin. You're not the underwriter. You're not the credit policy maker. And so you have to give those conditions to your business to say, first of all, which of these conditions are still active? Second is, how do you want the internal description to be as compared to the external description? The third thing you have to decide on is, what kind of condition type is this condition? Pop quiz. What are some condition types that you would want to use besides underwriting? Because that's what everybody uses today in standard conditions, is underwriting. Candace, what did you end up using? I know Beth has mentioned before, Beth has used LO to sign off, underwriter sign off, Beth, keep me honest. That kind of a thing. Appraisal condition type Marissa adds, that's a great one. Like, how many times do we have appraisal conditions? And the reason for that, Marissa, is because I'm guessing you want to have the appraisal role to be able to sign off on those conditions maybe. So I'm going to explain some details as what the heck I'm talking about. But Jeremy adds closing conditions. Beth adds account manager, underwriting, and closing conditions. And, you know, these are important parts. So post-closing is a good one. And what I would say, Chris, is go deeper, right? It's not just post-closing, but maybe it's post-closing quality control. Maybe it's post-closing, you know, something else. I don't know what else it would be. But post-closing is tricky right now with Investor Connect coming online with a lot of investors, because those investor delivery conditions are not the same as post-closing. And Candace is showing off because she's got a team of testers. If everybody could have a team of testers, we would probably all be better for it, right? All right, so we got some good conversation going on. Sometimes Marissa says sometimes loan processor to sign off on the appraisal conditions. And Beth adds, we're gonna set up post-closing to capture our TPR review findings. Beth, sorry, I don't speak that language. What does TPR review findings mean, please? Just so everybody knows, because obviously I feel like I'm not in the clique. I'm not in the club. I don't know what that means. So here, let me share screen, and I'll get into a couple of things here. It talks about enhanced conditions and why you need these now. So I'm going to walk through. This. This is my environment for mortgage workflow partners, and we'll just bring in a conventional loan. As a reminder, to turn on enhanced conditions in your environment, that's in the admin tools under policy, under settings manager, and then policies. Be like halfway down, two-thirds of the way down. You turn on enhanced conditions and you have to set a date. That date represents when new files are created. When you go into the E folder, those new files will have a single tab of conditions. The reason why you only need a single tab is because you have condition types. And we're going to talk about this in a minute. And this is exactly why I set you up with that question earlier. Oh, Beth answered my question. Beth, thank you. She says for what was the thing? TPR. In the non-QM world, you have to have your files reviewed by a third-party review. Oh, third-party review. Gotcha. Is this to keep us away from 2008 all over again? Because some third party says they're okay? Awesome. Good job. Keep it up. So when you come in here and you add in conditions, I'm just going to add a condition set in here. It's not that many because I've only got one enhanced condition, right? But right away, you can hopefully see the difference in how these enhanced conditions now are presented. A couple of things to point out: internal description versus external. This is a big deal because you get to have mortgagees in the internal, so you can talk about internal language. And in external, you can actually use spell check. You can actually do all kinds of stuff in here and post it in. Now, Encompass doesn't have spell check, but I mean, you can use spell check when putting it in there, and you can make sure that information is crystal clear to somebody who speaks English as opposed to what you want here. Also, on the output for your approval letters or your emails or whatever, you can make sure that information is as clear as it can be. Something else that's important to understand here is you've got a comment section that's now smack in your face. If you use conditions comments in your flow, and it was always buried behind that tab on the left side, which nobody ever checks, right? Or they have to over check just in case something's there. Now you've got it in there, and what's great is when you add it, you can actually have the comment travel with the file if you want. If you don't, it'll just say internal. If you do, mark it as external, it lets you know there. And so Luba said, we never use those. What would you use the comments for? The comments are going back and forth between your parties that are reviewing the conditions. Candace, to answer Candace's question, ICE is fixing the E folder. Candace, if you go through my release notes review that you'll find in the mortgage community, you'll hear me talk about it, but I'm being sassy. But yeah, it's in 24.2. That's supposed to be no time. Make time. That's going to be in 24.2. They are updating two things on here. They're updating the latest status, and they're also updating the disposition icon properly. Yay. But going back to what Luba, you asked, I find that companies that deploy workflows with comments allow the processor to define what it is about the comment when they go to, or excuse me, what it is about the condition when they go to resubmit. Also, it helps when you have an underwriter who's getting frustrated by receiving things that aren't really needed or wanted. It's like, hey, processor Larry, like, stop sending me pictures of cats. I'm not looking for that. Thanks. Naturally, I would leave that as an internal comment. A good example of an external comment could be, instead of putting an annotation, some people don't like annotations on the supporting documents, but you can put in here like used most recent pay stub and use declining income to calculate most recent overtime calculations. Something like that. It's a way to document it in the file without it taking up space. Of course, you don't have the space on the 1008 to do that. Annotations get missed sometimes and you want it tied to the condition. So hopefully that makes sense. And Beth reinforced what I was just saying. So Liv, check out Beth's comment there. Okay. Okay. And what we're talking about, gang, is when we're on the documents, if there's a condition on here. So if I go into the condition and I attach a supporting document, what we're looking for is over here, the pay stub actually shows it's for a condition right here. Yeah, it's getting fixed supposedly in 24.2. We'll see it in a couple weeks. So I think it's 2 weeks from now. We should be seeing it in our test environments, and we will see. All right, so let's get into why this is valuable for July 20th. Thanks, Marissa. Let's get into why this is valuable from a reason. I told you that I would give you 3 reasons. The first reason is when you go in to set up enhanced conditions, you have the ability to define these condition types. For me, this is everything, because I can finally get in and create a condition type where I can define not only the specific roles that are allowed to perform the specific status updates that I want, but I can define it also by condition type to give different roles, different options on those conditions in the same e-folder without screwing with my personas. So process that statement for a second. You can set your persona to have the ability to clear conditions, including your loan officer, if you were doing like pre-approval conditions or preliminary or submission to underwriting conditions. Again, everybody's different, gang. There's a lot of consumer direct going from LO right to underwriting and then back to processing, which you typically only see in wholesale. But I spent a lot of time with a lot of different companies concocting their workflows. And the first thing that I saw in enhanced conditions was the ability to create condition types. You can finally update whatever category options you want, as well as prior tos. Like a lot of folks say prior to approval is the same as prior to clear to close. Well, that's fine. But I don't like that in my fictitious company. If it's a prior to clear to close condition, I want that to say prior to clear to close, because that's English. Not everybody understands what approval means. Some people think they want conditional approval prior to conditional approval. You get the point. And so the idea here is you can update your source options if you want and your destination options. Mostly, if you want to get rid of the rejected status once and for all, thank you very much, or the received status of conditions, because a condition doesn't get received, a condition gets fulfilled, a document gets received. So if you want to have your condition type be that for underwriting, and you can finally then do it. Just keep in mind that you see these statuses update, and they're updating based upon here. So if we want to have a condition status of cat represent open, you'll see that cat represents over here. Candace says at Maggie, internal description. So I guess somewhere, Maggie, you talked about internal, external. It's really important. This is also something that kind of got screwy with internal conditions. Beth can speak to this firsthand. But the ability to print has different merge code field IDs. So if you're trying to test this with regards to how things work on custom print forms, your merge code fields are very different for enhanced conditions. Keep that in mind. Thanks, Sean, for supporting Maggie. Really, really appreciate that. Yeah, any takeaway notes, share with the community. That would be great. Fantastic. So first thing is condition types. Second thing that I talk about is, yeah, I don't care about that. Second thing I want to talk about is business rules. Now, with automated enhanced conditions in here, different from automated conditions, right? So if we think about automated conditions, we know that this has been around forever, and we know that this simply builds an automated condition set that your underwriter still has to click 4 times to add to the e-folder, and that's kind of a drag. So the ability to create automated conditions in here allows you to define what conditions get added based upon specific criteria. And how this all connects is when you go into Workflow Engine, which if you haven't visited Workflow Engine, please add that to your list. So when you go into Workflow Engine and you set up a new rule, one of your results is to add in enhanced conditions. So when you apply enhanced conditions, this is where you get to say, follow all, it's going to, if you have this radio button, it's going to run through all of your enhanced automated conditions rules. It's really just a configuration, or you can apply selected conditions. Gang, you no longer need third-party plugins. You no longer have to give your business the excuse that Encompass doesn't support truly automated conditions. It's right here. It's right here. And Beth adds in here, listen, Workflow Engine is new, right? It's new tech. Nothing's infallible. I just found out that, and I reported it to ICE, and ICE validated for me, that it won't automatically add a role to a file unless you follow specific criteria. So this is not a panacea of perfectness by any stretch. It's still being worked on, but the fact is that it will work. But as Beth says in the chat, sometimes it's not instantaneous. It just depends on the sequencing. I'm always going to say that if you're using Workflow Engine, you should be counting on lights out activity, meaning that it's not a field trigger. Like field triggers we know happen as soon as they hit. This is a Workflow Engine, which means it's server side, which means it's going to have to sometimes wait for someone to leave the file to get an exclusive lock on the file to do things like adding conditions or updating roles, things like that. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. The big part about the automation is you can run this automation just like we ran, if I close this out, just like when we ran the automated conditions here. You can let it run, and if you have your conditions set up properly, so if we go back to this enhanced condition, if you have your conditions set up properly, you want to make sure that you have this in here. I don't know why there's not a global setting for this. I wish there was a checkbox over here, but this little guy for conditions cannot be duplicated in alone. Big deal for me because I don't want to see, if I'm running this on a business rule, I don't want to see this guy 3 or 4 times. It's going to kind of tick everybody off. So Chris adds, will business rules be available on the web eventually, meaning all of our already built automated enhanced conditions flow over to the web? You don't have automated enhanced business rules, Chris, unless you do this. So if you're talking about automated enhanced conditions business rule here, you fire it with Workflow Engine. So let me know if that's what you meant. But ICE is, because I'm on the partner advisory board between Mortgage Workflow Partners and ATI, I get double the interaction. It doesn't mean much. It's just it's just how I involve myself with ICE. But everything else, the idea is if we come in here, ICE wants to eventually have everything on the web. How these business rules get over there, I don't know. We'll have to see, Chris. But that's it. Right now, you're living in a couple different places. What's really important to understand is that Workflow Engine is not replacing any of these business rules per se. You can write a Workflow Engine to update a custom field. I haven't done that yet because I'd rather write a field trigger for that or a DDM for that. So depends on your functionality ideas, but as Candace says, the business rules in Workflow are are JavaScript based, and the business rules in Encompass are XML based, because the data in the loan file is a big XML file. So, so hopefully that helps out. All right, so that's two, right? The first thing is you've got condition types. The second thing is you've got automation. You got it, Chris. Anybody want to guess what the third reason is you want to move to enhanced conditions? Anybody? It's kind of obvious in your face. Reduce the human touch, maybe. New doc viewer, good guess, Candace, but no, because Larry said so, definitely not. I got bad news. If you go into, let's see if I can figure out the internet here. So if you ever have any plans to go to, I think this is my environment. I don't know if this is the right one. Hang on, guys. I'm going to forget my password. So while I'm figuring out my life here, if you ever plan on using Encompass Web, which you will, I have bad news. And the bad news is that you cannot use Encompass Web to its actual potential unless you're using enhanced conditions. So Luba, there's your trap. And so once I log in here, I'll show you what the heck I'm talking about. Yes. So if you try to go and use Encompass Web, oh, I'm seeing the comment, Candace, Microsoft, sure. Marissa says old condition manager is getting phased out. I don't expect so. ICE has been really crystal clear on the following sentence. They do not want to force you onto the web. They are not deprecating desktop. They want to make sure that you have value in the new experience so that you'll want to do it. And it's the right way. It's totally the right way. I've talked with senior leadership at ICE about this extensively, and it is definitely the right way. So if I go into test, I think I have them in. So if I go into disclosure test, I want you to pay attention to the left nav. And so over in here, notice when I go into E folder, I'm going to get a little message over here if it behaves properly. So what I was looking for was, there it is, just a little late, 403. 403 means that it can't connect, it's an internet protocol, right? Error code 403, it can't connect to something. And what it can't connect to is the conditions. So if you go into a file or if your team starts using Encompass Web for any part of your workflow and you're not using enhanced conditions, you're going to get that 403, and it's super annoying and it's super intentional. So as an example, if you come out of there and let me go back to pipeline, and instead of doing disclosures test, I think I did enhanced conditions, not that one. Sorry, gang. I swear it's almost my first day of clear filters of using my mouse. So borrower name, I wanted enhanced conditions. So now when I go into this guy, what you'll see is on the left nav, you've got another spot there for conditions. And what you don't see is the 403. So here's the file I was just in. Here's the condition that you just saw. And here's the UI for enhanced conditions on the web. Super clean. Like for me, again, imagine you're an underwriter and I want to figure out what my descriptions are. I want to see all my attachments. If I need to pick up other documents into this condition, I can really simply. I can assign them and it's back in the condition, and I can update the status and I can add my comment and add if it's external. I can also view tracking owner, so who's allowed to clear this and who's not, that kind of a thing. So again, for me, first of all, the UI is clean, but the idea is that I can come over, and if I want to start to use Encompass Web, which I do, we've got projects where we're moving consumer direct teams using Encompass Web very quickly. We're using task-based workflows to help companies be quicker and more efficient in task-based departments. And with 24.2, if you get around to watching my walkthrough, you'll see that there's a ton more functionality coming in, and they're going after closers, and they meaning ICE. They're going after closers. And so what they're bringing into Encompass Web are more services that you can order and more tools that you can use within here. And I'm going to reinforce that. I'm going to take this moment to reinforce this idea of card-based workflows. This is where the money is, gang. I'm telling you right now, this is where the money is. So hop over there. If there's ever any questions I can answer in the community, check it out. If you want to learn how to use Encompass Web in a very strong way, sign up for the class that I have. It's $500 for lifetime access, and I teach you everything for Encompass Web. And as new things come out, we keep teaching. And so if you're looking for a way to kind of get to know how to do this and get some assistance from myself, sign up for that. You'll find that on the community. If you need any more information about that, let me know. But that's it. That's your top 3 reasons. I promised you 3. I gave you 3. So the first one is, of course, is making sure that you can get into using automation for, well, actually the first one was talking about condition types and breaking up your conditions. So going back to that Excel sheet I gave you in the beginning, that workflow, you print the conditions, you give it to your teams to break up if they're still active, because I left this out like a dummy. So when you go into, if I can get into my environment, that would be super nice. Thank you. So when you go into the enhanced conditions, one of the other things that you can do that you can't do with standard is you can set an active and an inactive date. So a start date and an end date, and you can also activate or deactivate it completely. So you're probably going to have, I'm guessing, just a few conditions that are no longer being used in your company. Programs disappeared, like all of those FHA, DU refi, or FHA, all those DU refi plus conditions that are sitting in your Encompass right now, you can get them out. So it'll give your teams the ability to actually be effective, but mostly the second part is the automation. Being able to automate your conditions, truly automate them into the e-folder, priceless. There's no company in the world that doesn't want automated conditions. Hell, Lender Toolkit built a whole platform for it and charges a lot of money for it. You know, you can use this as an alternative look. You can see which one you feel better about, but you can truly automate your conditions from beginning to end on Encompass Desktop. You do not need to use Encompass Web for that. You can use Encompass Desktop. And then the last one is you need to get on enhanced conditions to actually use Encompass Web. Otherwise, you're going to get that 403 error. And again, that's the reason being is what we've talked about, which is the conditions objects, and every object that's in desktop is built for the XML-based file desktop, not built for JavaScript and for the API objects that are there now. That's what I got for you. So as always, if there's anything I can ever do to help you or your company, let me know directly. I love figuring out workflows and how to use technology in a way, but we got to figure out workflow first, always. Workflow before technology. If you're not following me on YouTube with Mastering Encompass, please do. And mostly, if you want to take the Mastering Encompass as an admin test, I encourage you to. Just send me a direct message. I'll send you the link. Absolutely no pressure. It's just there to help guide you on what you know and what you don't know. So that's all I got for you for today. Thank you, everybody. Hope everybody is staying as cool as possible and keeping your pets cool. Plenty of water. Wear sunscreen. Eat your vegetables. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.